What's going on, Jonathan? Awesome to have you here.
Thank you, Felix. I'm excited to be here.
Hell yeah, it's one of the first episodes, and I'm so happy to do it with you. Really glad to have gotten to know you the last 2 months, building an awesome friendship, and also just having more like-minded people in Miami, really building cool stuff. Jonathan is the co-founder and CEO of AEXLAB, a leading VR gaming studio. And today I'm really looking forward to diving into the world of VR, really where you see both the history and the future of VR going. Talking about gaming, both the world of gaming that you're familiar with from VR and traditional gaming, and also where gaming is kind of currently going with Web3 and maybe the things you like, the things you don't like, and also kind of taking a look at the different approaches we've seen in both VR and gaming with the big institutions, whether that's, the Microsofts of the world, the Metas of the world, and so forth, and then how, both independent studios like you're approaching it, and of course also Web3. So we got a lot to cover, I think both on the technological front and also maybe a little bit of philosophical, because, and that might actually be an interesting place to start before we dive into your backstory. One of the most common pushbacks I get to the whole idea of the metaverse, or before people use the word metaverse, VR, is, does it disconnect us? Doesn't it make us less in touch with this reality that we're here? Or why is it a good thing? What's your take on that?
So I just genuinely believe that virtual reality actually connects people more. It's just a more immersive medium of exchange. So when you're inside of virtual reality, you can see people, you can feel people with haptic suits. You are looking people in the face. There's already some eye tracking that if you look left or right with your eyeballs, the character does it. It's very creepy. But when you're in these worlds, you're more connected than ever. And something that I like to bring up is for focus and attention, especially in modern society, when you're on your phone, you have notifications popping up on the top of your phone all day long. When you're on your computer, I have 2 monitors. And my left monitor is emails pinging me, Discord pinging me, crypto charts pinging me. If I just have one monitor, it's on the bottom right. These notifications are pinging you. So you're not as focused. It's nearly impossible today to be focused on, your computer screen, on your actual mobile device. And even when watching television, I still have my phone and my computer with me. When you're in VR, you are so checked in that you do not have any notifications around you, which is something people don't really think about. When I'm in VR, I lose track of time. And when I want to check my phone, I have to take my headset off. It's this barrier that when you're inside this world, you're so connected with the people, with the environment, with everything that it teleports you to another world. So a lot of people like to say, oh, VR is not good because it's isolating people. I actually think the opposite. Most people that use VR, they're not your Miami party people. They're not your New York City, work all day, go out all night. It's the rest of the world. It's the 90% plus of the world that, they live in small towns. They live in places that everything shuts down at 7 p.m. or 9 p.m. and on the weekends. And they just are able to teleport themselves to these places and do things that they never thought possible at any time, at any day. And that is the part of VR that gets me really excited.
Incredible. So kind of the keyword I'm thinking of is presence, because for the first time you're focusing again on one single task versus this whole distraction mindset that we have with 20,000 tabs open, 5 different windows, 10 screens. Do you think that could be reintroduced though? That, for example, I think already now I can have overlays where I have the Oculus on, I get a message, hey, a chat came in, or do we kind of like boil it back down simpler where we have, the VR chats of the world? We walk around in, one environment, we play games in that environment, we communicate with one another.
So there are overlays. Most of the overlays that I use and that most of the people in my VR community uses are Twitch overlays and Discord overlays, so that you can stay connected to your friends and you can also stay connected to, the people that are watching you live stream. But eventually, will we get to the same point we're at today where there's a million random ads popping up at you? Yes, it's possible. But at least for now, it's still very raw. It's still very virgin. And when you're in these worlds, a majority of people are not on Discord and streaming. They're just in the game. And it's pretty cool. And I just had a conversation recently. I had some people from the VR AR Association come in, and we were talking about how education will be impacted in the metaverse or in virtual reality specifically. And I thought it was a huge bonus, because when you're in school, now everybody has a laptop and an iPad with all their
Yep.
tabs. They're half listening to the teacher, half listening to their iPad, to their phone, all these things. Education in VR, you're either in it and the teacher can see that all the kids look normal, like their bodies, because if they take their headset off, their entire body will be discombobulated and they'll probably get yelled at immediately. So I think it's definitely a plus. And at the current state that we're in, it's still raw and virgin, but I do agree with you that it's possible that all these overlays will get introduced and it will be almost the same thing as reality today.
So you just gave a great example, which is education, for example, as an early instantiation of virtual reality. You can scale geography, but how do you scale, I guess, the relationship in virtual reality? So let's say, for example, you have one teacher and technically you teach a class with millions of students because, again, geography doesn't exist. How do you scale the relationship aspect of VR, especially when also from a pure technological perspective, servers are limited in terms of like how many people can be on at any given time?
If you're talking about that one-on-one interaction,
Yeah.
it's something that I've thought about. I don't know if you can really scale that per se, but the part about virtual reality education that I really like is, for example, when I went to University of Miami, I only had an X selection of professors at certain times and dates that I could be in. And now any kid anywhere can go and apply to work with the teacher because they're no longer bound by the geography. So I don't know it's so much about scaling actual one-on-one interactions, but it's about placing the kids with the professors that they actually want to learn from, which in my opinion should drive retention rates and just general interest in education.
Right. Okay. So really just removing the geographical aspect of it, which also is, has bloomed so much with remote, with COVID, everybody started doing remote work. We started using technology to replace, Zoom replaced the board meeting, platforms like, ClickUp, Asana, and so forth, replace a lot of the normal housekeeping. I guess now, you don't have to go to a specific university, but like a kid in the middle of America, a kid in India, a kid in, Germany could all attend still a top tier university with a top tier professor using virtual reality while having the similar experience.
Yeah. And something for me, and this is a hot take, but I think the number one value that at least I got from university, it wasn't my professors, it wasn't my classes. It was being in classrooms and extracurricular activities with like-minded people. So if you think about it, you have a professor that's famous for, I don't know, crypto trading. All the people that are interested in this all over the world can now attend this lecture. And I had classes at University of Miami with 30 students, and I had some with 200, 300 in these massive lecture halls. There was no one-on-one attention. But I would find people in these lecture halls that I would be able to connect with. And you can now do this with VR, connect with the people that are going to attend the same things as you. And that's really where the magic happens.
So is there a way to make, because I think what VR can suffer from is that the world is too big, right? Like from the perspective that you will always run into new people. If you're tied to a locality, like, for example, I go to university, I will always run into the same faces, right? So how can you make a big world small and create that certain, feeling of community?
I think it's just about, I can talk about our game specifically. We have a community right now with about 20,000 plus members in our Discord. Everyone's there for the same reason. They all love first-person VR shooters. So even though there's 20,000 plus people in this community, I know a majority of them. And I know them by name, sometimes by gestures, because I see them playing and they use different names. And I'm like, oh, is that Fox, for example? Or is that a Crazy Ivan? Like, I know these people just by the way they act. So I think it's not really about thinking geography-wise, but more like, how do I explain community? Even though the world is massive, there's so many niches, and there's niches within niches, and it's just about pairing people with people that think like that.
That I like them.
Yeah, it's just about pairing, because if there's 30,000 people and they all think the exact same,
Correct.
It's still a community. If it's 100,000 people 100%. Or it's 10 people, if you all think the same, it's a strong community.
I love that, and that's actually kind of like the point I usually make as a counter is that the only might VR disconnect us from physical reality, sure, but in physical reality you're forced to be with people just because perchance you were born there, right? In VR you can choose your surroundings based on what are you in common with, who are people that actually get you, people that actually like you. So in a way, that's why I think it might actually connect us more, because you get to choose who your friends are. You get to choose who's around you.
And if there's 1 million people that all think like you,
right,
you can make it happen. Now, in a city, in a physical location, I don't know if it's that possible.
Yeah. You might be the weird one out.
Yeah, you might be the weird one out. If you find 5 people like you're like, wow, this is crazy. But when you take the whole world into account, there might be 1 million people out of 10 billion, but that's still a lot of people, and it's your people. And that's really what I love so much about the internet in general and virtual reality, because it's just, in my opinion, the next version of the internet, because you're not just looking at text and voice chat. Like, you really get to see people moving and walking. And also in VR, something that's really big about VR is expression. So VR is massive in expression. Like, people love to 3D model their own avatars and rig them and wear full body tracking suits so that they can lift their legs and show it off in this virtual world. Like, people do these things. They love to dance in VR. I mean, normal games, you click a button and it's a pre-recorded dance move.
Correct. Yeah.
In VR, like, these kids are going out of their way to get fully rigged up. I mean, it looks ridiculous in person, but just to show off their dance moves. And it's beautiful to me. I get really excited about these things.
I love that. No, because it brings a certain level of like authenticity back to the digital world and to digital entertainment, because so much of it before was, I kind of free-fed, like you said, you hit a button and something happens. That button push was pre-programmed by one company versus, this world that I guess kind of like segues us into Web 3.2 is this whole world of like user-generated content, which is something that I'm really excited about. How do you see, the world, I guess the metaverse kind of splitting off between, I guess, corporate-made content and user-generated content, and, does one or the other have an edge over each other? Like, what are the pros and cons?
That's a loaded question with corporate-made content. I'll talk about user-generated content. User-generated content, most of it is subjectively not good, but it's fucking awesome at the same time. Contradictory. Why? Because if you think about the snowball effect of network effect and virality, you have a middle schooler, he makes a level. It might be terrible, but it's his first level. And it's kind of like when little kids, I mean, I'm at fault for this. I would draw drawings as a 5-year-old, and I was so damn proud. I was like, Mom, look at this. There's scribbles all over the place. I mean, it's a joke of a piece of art, but to me, it's my art, and I was proud. And I would go show my other 5-year-olds, and they'd be like, oh, this is very good art. And we'd all be hyped up on our art together.
And it ends up on the fridge.
It ends up on the fridge, but it's garbage. It's the same thing in user-generated content world. There's 5-year-olds to 18-year-olds with little experience making stuff for the first time. And because they made it, they're so proud of it that they want to share with all their friends. And all their friends are probably, most of them, because they're friends, they're similar, ideally, they're probably on the same level as them. So they're damn proud too. They're like, this is an awful level, but I'm so proud of it. So this user-generated content, one guy makes it, he tells a class of 30 kids about it. Those 30 kids then make their own stuff. They all start sharing it with each other. And all of a sudden, every kid's already connected on the internet. It goes viral. So I think user-generated content is powerful, one, because you get to express and design the world that you want. Two, network effect. Everybody finds out about it or sees it. The best of the best go all the way to the top. And when you think about games that we know today, like Counter-Strike or Half-Life, these are all mods off of other games that were made by community members that ended up being, the unicorn game mode, and they explode. So anything's really possible. From corporate side,
we can change the word. We don't have to call it corporate, but I guess professional game studios.
Well, the thing is, there's professional AAA studios, and then there's, for some reason in the last decade, the trend has been massive corporations want to be cool. They want to be gamers, so they acquire game studios or start in-game or in-house content departments, like Amazon, for example. It's very difficult to make these massive games with a lot of money just immediately. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, like you can't just buy your way into it, I guess, because what I'm hearing out is the art aspect can't just be bought.
I have a way to explain it. Creative is hard to scale. Creative cannot be purchased or bought. Creative is creative. It's like you find the Beatles and then you're Amazon. You're like, oh, the Beatles, they did very good. Let's try to make it a science. Let's throw $1 billion at it and we'll have 20 Beatles.
Let's get 20 ones that sound like them.
Let's get 20 Beatles. It's not the Beatles. It doesn't work.
It's like the meme of like, ordered on Amazon versus ordered on Wish, where it's like, it looks like it kind of, but it's completely different. Looks cheap.
I'll give you an example. Amazon just came out with a game that I was so excited for. It was an MMORPG called New World. It was just awful. I mean, I don't know how many hundreds of millions of dollars and hundreds or thousands of people they put on this project, and it was just so awful. There was no identity. They had crazy bugs and hacks that when the game came out, you know, first there was no in-game currency because all the in-game currency would be created towards the end of the game level. Okay. So like 90% of the people just started playing it. No one had money to do anything, and you needed money for everything in the game. So everyone's broke. All of a sudden, one gamer finds a hack to make in-game money. Obviously, it goes viral, and then everybody started, you know, printing money because there was a client versus server side hack that you could trade with someone and then minimize your window in real time, and then that person would get registered the money, and you would still keep your money and cancel your game. And these kids were doing it over and over and over again. So it's really funny because you can watch a documentary on the rise and fall of New World in 90 days, and everyone starts off no money, everyone has too much money, and then it just destroyed the whole entire in-game economy was completely destroyed within 90 days. I mean,
right, because it was a multiplayer, right?
It's an MMORPG.
Yes.
It's like if you're in World of Warcraft and all of a sudden everybody has infinite amounts of gold, it destroys the entire in-game economy of everything.
Wow.
This happened with hundreds of millions of dollars spent. And on top of the actual bugs, which were already an issue, the game just wasn't fun. There was no identity. There was no nothing. And it's just because someone at Amazon was like, we need to make a really big MMORPG.
Yeah.
Like, that's not how it happens. If you think about, it's actually something I was making a joke about recently. You know, you go to the movie theaters today and you see these franchises, they're already on the third, the fourth, the fifth version of the same damn movie. Yep. And it's just like
how many more Fast and Furious do we need?
Yeah, it's like
Avengers.
It's just like creativity's so stifled right now because everyone that had something good 10, 20 years ago made so much money off of it. And now you can scale it. Once you have good IP, you can scale it.
Yep.
But you can't repeat it over and over and over again. That's what they're kind of doing because they can't re-innovate and new IPs. So we're kind of at a point where, you know, Call of Duty's been around 20 years. World of Warcraft's been around 20 years. RuneScape's been around 20 years. All these movies have been around 10, 20 years. Like, everything's kind of just been here for so long, and all these massive corporations have so much capital, but they still fail to scale and source creative. And that's kind of where we're at with this new movement into virtual reality. Up until recently, it wasn't a hot market. So the only people in VR were small indie studios making really awesome things. And we have a lot of potential new awesome IPs that I think are going to explode over the next 5 years because of this. So I'm really excited. Traditional game companies, they're like, okay, how do we take Call of Duty and put it in VR? How do we take Halo and put it in VR? How do we take XYZ and put it in VR? They're all trying to port these games. And there's one game I can talk about openly, Medal of Honor. Great franchise, 20-year-old franchise, massive multi-billion-dollar franchise. I was scared. As a CEO, I was scared of them as a competitor. As a gamer, I was really excited. So it came out last year, and it was 200 gigabyte download, which is insane for VR, by the way.
Right.
I downloaded it. 5 minutes in, I was like, "This, you got to be kidding me!" I mean, the game just it was a janky VR port because these people are just trying to take something that worked in, you know, you can call it Web 2 or Pancake games, and then they're just like, all right, let's make it Web 3 or VR. And it just doesn't work. You need to start from scratch. You need to come up with new IP. You need to come up with new gameplay mechanics. It's no longer clicking a button and reloading automatically with an animation. It's people want to interact. In normal games, no one cared about all the peripherals around you. In VR, people walk in a room. They're not just walking into the room to get to the next room to kill people. They walk in the room and they hang out for hours. Let me see if I can touch and interact with every little object. It takes a long time.
So then you as a founder and CEO of, you know, a virtual reality game and beyond the game, you know, really, you know, you're building out an ecosystem around it with like mini games and just like where people can hang out and so forth. What would you say is the biggest differentiation of how, you know, you as an independent studio approach it versus these big firms that are trying to always go, like take version A that they've been going with for decades and now make it VR or make it Web3, for example?
All right, so most big companies, they say, how do we take something successful non-VR and make it VR and make more money? The question that I always ask myself is, I'm not trying to make Counter-Strike in VR, World of Warcraft. I'm not trying to make these games in VR. I say, what can we do in our game that you can only do in VR? And that's what drives our gameplay design. So everything that we add to our game is something that's only possible in VR. And when you start thinking about game design from that, angle, like what can we do that's only VR? That's where you start getting something that's special and unique to VR. Because I've had games that are ported over to VR and it's cool for 5 minutes, like Grand Theft Auto. I did it in VR. It's cool for 5 minutes,
but it's not worth the extra effort of putting on.
I'd rather just play regular Grand Theft Auto.
Yep.
Now, if you give me a game that I can only do this in VR, yeah, it's worth the extra effort of being in VR because I can only do it in VR. So I'll give you a few alpha leaks on things that we're doing. So a traditional game loop for a first-person shooter. You have a. Let's talk about the second that you click play. You're in the party already. You have your friends. You click play. You queue up for the match. The first 30 seconds to a minute, it's usually called warm-up. Kids are just yelling at each other and shooting randomly, getting kills, and then the game starts. So every other VR game for a first-person shooter has the same thing. The first 30 seconds, and I hope other VR developers aren't listening because they're going to copy me. But I expect all these things to be standard very soon by every game. It just makes sense. So in our game, instead of having a 30-second warm-up, we're actually designing kind of like a war room. So instead of running around aimlessly killing people, you're in a room with your team with a 3D version of your map that shows you the map. It shows you the lanes. It shows you the objective points. You can take crayons and you can draw and strategize. And you can be like, all right, 2 people are going to go this way. 1 person's going to go this way. And you can do this all in VR, like with your people. You can high five each other to add each other as friends. And then it's like, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it teleports them to the starting point, and then it says go, right? And then at the end of a Call of Duty match, for example, it will just show you a cool cinematic, and you'll have, the last 5 people standing, and they all shit talk to each other, or they GG, depending on the type of gamer. Sometimes they're like, all right, I lost, GG. Other times they're like, oh, fuck you, for like 5 seconds, and then it takes them out. And you don't, as a gamer, since it's 5 seconds and they're going to take you out, you're never going to see that person again. Sometimes they just talk mad shit. What we're doing at the end of our matches is we're lining up the opposing team and the victory team in front of each other. And then the winners, like if you have the most kills, you're going to have a really cool skin or an outfit or something funny. So you can see each other at the end of the match. And if you're on the losing team and you see the winning team, you can be a good sport and be like GG, and you can go high five, the person or try to high five. They can't, they don't have to high five back, but you can try to high five the top fragger on the enemy or on the winning team. And if they high five you back, you just made a friend. So we're trying to create these social interactions that are only possible in VR. We're trying to create these strategic interactions before the game that are only possible in VR. And these are just 2. I have many more, but I'm not going to leak them all. These are just 2 little things that when you get into it, the way you're going to play a VR first-person shooter will not be anything like a traditional pancake game. So it's like, I want to play Veil because I can do all these things that I can't do. If I just do what Counter-Strike does, as a gamer, I'd rather just play Counter-Strike. It's better.
That's actually awesome frame to look at it through, because the way you describe both of those examples, the pre-game and the post-game, actually reminded me more of the real world than games. And the examples I'll give with, let's say, the pre-game, right before it starts, let's say you're having a paintball match, right? You might be cuddle up with your team, discuss like, you go there, you go there, you go this, right? Counter-Strike, you're just sitting in lobby. It's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it starts, right?
No, actually, in Counter-Strike, you're right, but the professional players will click tab and hold tab to see the map, and then they're telling all their other friends, hold tab.
Right.
And they're just saying, because you can't draw or anything. So they're like, all right, so like you're going to go A long, you're going to go heaven right. They have call outs, so they're really nerdy. Like they know all the things.
Sure.
But that's the professional ones.
You're right.
And even that isn't good enough.
But what you're doing really is, building this VR game, you're not trying to recreate what Counter-Strike is VR, but rather you're trying to recreate the physical experience. Or after the game, you just said like giving high fives. It made me think of like, back in the high school days when I was on the soccer team, right? What do soccer teams do after the game? They walk in lines, patch each other, and like, slap hands or whatever, say hi,
whether they won or lost,
right? So, and that's just kind of like recreating this human relationship again versus like, oh, never going to see you again. Like,
let me talk shit for 5 seconds and yell at you.
Right. And say all kinds of things I probably don't want to say on here. Yeah. Especially like it's always the 14-year-olds or 13-year-olds that have the dirtiest language. That's awesome. So that because actually in a couple minutes ago, you talked about really 2 things, which was one, the franchises, how we've kind of gotten into a world of, most games just being franchises, keeping going on. And the second thing we talked about was in-game economies. I think I want to dive a little bit deeper in that because you touched on it with Amazon's new game, how it collapsed because of bad design and of cheat codes, bugs. Yeah. That's something where we've had very few successful, I would say, MMORPG economies. I think one of the few that stands out. God, now I'm blanking. In space, the very popular one.
Destiny?
No. It's one of the most. I will look. Jamie, go look it up. Search on your phone. It's a space MMORPG.
Oh, from 2006 is an old one, right?
But it's still going on.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's got like one of the most.
I know what you're talking about. I never played it, but I know what you're talking about.
Explosively like built out economies.
I know exactly.
Huh?
No.
No. MMORPG.
Oh, MMORPG.
Chi.
I know what you're talking about. Someone told me about this like many times.
EVE Online.
EVE
Online. Yeah. There we go.
Good job. You're a gamer, brother.
So there's very few successful MMORPGs with very well thought out economies, because it's hard. It's hard to build economies that work. And so EVE Online is a centralized game that has built one. But now, as we enter the world of Web3, there's all these, they call them play-to-earn games, P2E in short, right? That are trying to create these economies that on one hand, like incentivize users to play it. But then, of course, incentives are great. Yes, it's awesome getting paid to play. But how does it survive, right? So when we've seen a number of games, blow up in themselves because they just over-incentivize on the front end. And others, stuff like Axie Infinity has grown a lot, has seen success, but even some of their incentive tokens are down like 95%. So when it comes to building in-game economies, whether that's P2E or even just like building an economy that's self-sustaining, how do you view it? Are these in-game economies even relevant to the game experience? And if so, how do you look at them?
So I have so many different hot takes on this. Let me see.
We'll take them all.
I'm not a fan of play to earn.
Mm-hmm.
I think play to earn is fundamentally flawed. I don't think that incentivizing kids to come play a game for financially driven reasons is sustainable,
mm-hmm.
because the second the token crashes or the second that there's another game that pays 1% better,
mm-hmm.
you're competing on cost, you're competing on price, you're competing on incentivizing them, for money. It's not sustainable. That's me personally. I think that what is sustainable is bringing kids in for the right reasons. And the right reasons are, I want to have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
I want to socialize with my friends. And once you can keep these people in your world for these reasons, that's when you have a beautiful ecosystem that you can then
mm-hmm.
start layering monetization into it. So a lot of people talk about play to earn.
Mm-hmm.
I like to talk about create to earn. So
mm-hmm.
what's the difference? Play to earn, you're saying, hey, come to my world and I'm going to pay you to play this.
Mm-hmm.
Create to earn is come to my world because it's fun. And if you want to be a creator in it, that's how you can earn money. So what does that mean? Right now, user-generated content is a majority of the most massively successful games, whether
mm-hmm.
it's Roblox or Minecraft or any online game that gets modded, which
mm-hmm.
there's massive mod communities behind many games. All these people are making stuff and they're not getting compensated for it.
Mm-hmm.
Counter-Strike was a mod. The original modders,
Yep.
how do they get paid? They don't. So what I'm thinking about for our game is we want to have a user-generated content marketplace where kids can design things, they can make levels, they can make weapon skins, they can make outfits,
mm-hmm.
they can make mini games, they can do whatever it is that they want. And if they want to, they can put it up for free for everybody to use, which is the traditional method.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a majority of the kids will do that.
Mm-hmm.
For the 1% that spend thousands of hours making really high level quality things that you'd normally pay an outsourcing studio tens of thousands of dollars, there are kids that are extremely talented that do these things by themselves. If they want to put it on the market for $1 or $5, let them put it on the market. All you have to do is create a marketplace and facilitate that so that mm-hmm. other kids that want to buy things, they don't just have to buy downloadable content from the studio
mm-hmm.
and then download mods for free. They can buy downloadable content from the studio, and they can also buy downloadable content or mods from the community if they want to. You compensate the creators using NFT technology by providing the marketplace and mm-hmm. providing this vehicle for creators to monetize. The studios can charge 5%. Also, there's this idea of scarcity in virtual reality,
mm-hmm.
which I'm not that big of a fan of. The virtual world should never be scarce. That's mm-hmm. the whole point of it. But if you do want to do limited runs of certain in-game items, which happens in almost every game, seasonal items you can call it. They don't really put a limit on it, but you only have a certain time frame to buy these things. Over time, these things could potentially become more valuable as they become more, OG. And if kids want to sell it to their other, peers, let them sell it. Mm-hmm. Right now, a lot of games, what the kids do is they'll sell their account on eBay, or they'll trade it in game for free and use a brokering company to get paid in Bitcoin or on PayPal. So these kids are doing this anyways. It's not a majority of the market, but it's some of the hustlers in the video game space. Which
I was gonna say, weren't you part of the whole RuneScape mafia?
Yeah, like I was a part of that, but I played in RuneScape. I had maybe 100 friends in my middle school that were playing it. There was like 3 of us that are like, all right, how do we make macros to go mine gold while we're sleeping so we can sell it for Bitcoin? Most of my other friends were just like, yo, I just want to be part of a guild and play Kill in the Wild. And they do that. But to me, this whole idea of Web3 and play to earn, it's going to end up being kids openly buying and selling, with the studios providing the marketplace getting a cut using NFT, normal standard royalties, and then also creators being able to create and get compensated for it fairly. So in VR right now, if you want to sell someone an avatar or a skin, you'll sell them the file. Guess what? That file can be emailed 1 million times.
Right.
So if you're a creator and you sell it one time, you have no piracy protection. NFTs prevent that because whoever's the owner of the NFT is the only person that can use the file. So that's a really awesome thing. Also, NFTs protect the creator because if it sells once or twice or 10 times secondary, they can get a cut off of that through the smart contract. So that's where NFTs get me excited. It's not like, oh, you need an NFT to play, or you need a token to play, or come play my game so you can make money with your NFTs and tokens. Like, gamers don't care about this. And something that most crypto people forget about. 17-year-old and younger, I don't want to say for everybody, but most of them don't really care about money. Really. When I was 13, 14, 15, 16, I had a $20 a week allowance for most of my childhood. I don't know how I made that work, but I did at the time. Now I'm like, I don't know how I made that work as an adult with bills and stuff. But as a kid, dude, you just want to have fun. I remember I'd wake up in the morning and be like, how can I have the most fun today with me and my little 13-year-old, 14-year-old, 15-year-old friends? That's all it was. It wasn't like, oh, I need to go to work. I need to go play this. I was very fortunate that I didn't have to do those things. But yeah, like all these crypto people think, oh, these kids, they all want to make money. The truth is most of them don't. They don't really care. They're living at home with their parents. They don't need money. They don't. They have their normal food. They're this. The parents take care of them. They just want a game. They want something that's fun. And that's why when you look at daily active users for play-to-earn gaming, other than Axie, because that's a phenomenon and good for them, there just aren't that many kids doing that. And then if the token drops, or if there's some other token that gives you more, it's like DeFi yielding. Like you jump from whatever project to whatever project, you try to milk it for the first few months, and then you go to the next. And that's not sustainable. If you look at franchises, they're around for 10, 20 years because they're sustainable. When you add all these like different layers into it, it's the wrong reasons.
So that's interesting. If the franchises are able to age, have you observed that the demographics, they don't age with them?
Actually, yeah, they expand. They do. I've noticed a lot of games like, well, I'll talk about World of Warcraft because I have a lot of hours in that. World of Warcraft, the demographics right now are literally 13 to 45-year-olds. That's everybody. Wow. Like 45. There's people who have been playing World of Warcraft for 20 years, and there's been people that are playing World of Warcraft for the first time today. The way that World of Warcraft did that, for better or worse, is with every new expansion pack, they kind of dumbed the game down a little bit. Okay. So if you go in today as a new player to World of Warcraft, it's not scary. Because think about it, there's people who have 20 years of experience in this. They dumbed it down. You walk in, a little arrow tells you, this is where you go this way, this is where you go that way. When I first played World of Warcraft, you don't know anything. I mean, you're in there, you have to figure it out. You have to YouTube, you have to Google, like you have to talk to people. Now, if you don't talk to anybody, there's like a little arrow that guides you from level 1 to 60 the whole way through. They super dumbed it down to be more mass appeal to all the kids.
So, but is that to keep the older guys in, or is that to bring in more young?
It's to bring new players in.
Okay.
And by bringing new players in, some of the older guys don't like it, and then they leave. It's all.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Is the dumbing down to keep the older players that are aging out, or is it just to get even younger crowds?
To get in younger crowds and bring in more money.
Okay.
For better or worse.
Because that's a question. So if VR actually goes beyond just gaming and becomes like this much bigger part of our lives where we spend a lot of time, I would think that companies are no longer just targeting the 13 to 17 demographic that doesn't care about money, that doesn't, that's all they do all day long. What does it take to, capture those audiences above that have lives and jobs and so forth, but still want to spend time in virtual reality?
Look, I'll tell you, my opinion right now is a majority of virtual reality is underage.
It is, okay.
13 to 18 year olds. This is a new thing in the last 12 months since the Quest explosion. Before the Quest, it would cost you $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for a PC VR setup. It'd be expensive. So the only people that had that were, 25 to 45-year-old males that invested in these expensive computers and had the money to buy them.
Right.
But now, what's the most affordable form of entertainment? A Nintendo Switch will cost you $400. A PlayStation will cost you $500 if you can even get one. Xbox, $500. Xbox and PlayStation, you also need a TV for it. An extra $300,000, $500,000. $300, you have a Quest 2. So every parent in the country bought a Quest 2 for their kids because they walked into Best Buy and they said, what's the best, most affordable gift? And they said the Quest 2. Every kid has one right now. You run around and it's funny, but you hear squeakers. You hear little kids all day long. That's the market. It's taken over VR in the last 12 months, and I don't think it's going to stop because little kids just love this stuff, and it's affordable now. So the parents, if they have to entertain their kids, they're going to get them a Quest 2. So that's just kind of where the market's at right now.
So and the interesting thing that makes me think of is that almost every single cool technology of the last 10 years, 15 years started with the demographic. I mean, like, I remember signing up to Facebook. I think it was like 2008 when I first moved to America. And it was only like, middle schoolers, high schoolers.
And then it gets to the grandparents now, 10 years
right. Later. And now my grandma's probably going to make an account. My mom loves spending time on Facebook, right? And the irony is we're not on Facebook anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Now it's like boomer tech, right? So, I wonder, and this might even be market opportunity where, yes, currently you got to curate towards the 13 to 17-year-olds, but how long will it be before those demographics are calling VR just as much their home as the younger generation do? Because even my grandma's on email now, right? Like, I mean, she's using FaceTime. That's unthinkable. My grandma's about to turn 90. My 90-year-old grandma is using FaceTime and email and so forth.
Sorry to interrupt. I think it just comes down to when you need the technology to do things to be part of society, it gets forced on them. Little kids adopt technology. Older people get taken by technology.
I see.
So why are old people on Facebook? Because at some point in their life, they got told, maybe for 5 years, hey, I wish my grandma was on Facebook. I wish my grandma was on Facebook. Talk to me on Facebook, right? Yeah. And then eventually the grandma gets to it. By the time they get to it, it's usually too late and the kids are on to the next thing. Same thing with the iPhone. My grandma FaceTimes me. She doesn't even know how it works. My uncle has to come into the room and she can see me and she's like, wow, this is crazy. And then she uses it. But it's not like they seek it out. Technology seeks out the older people. That's how I feel, at least.
No, this makes a lot of sense because I'm thinking to the example of my grandmother. I think we got her email because we're like, wouldn't this be easier? We could send her pictures, right?
You tell the grandma you're gonna get pictures on this, she'll figure it out. Right.
And then we were like, honestly, like, I don't even check my email that much anymore unless it's for work. Like, work is like pretty much the only reason I use email. Like, it's not like I wake up and like I email my friends like, hey Jonathan, how are you doing today? I hope you're having a wonderful day. Goodbye, Felix. Right.
When I get emails from you, I get happy.
Aww. But then I was like, what do we do with friends? Like FaceTime. I'm like, my grandma could see me on FaceTime, right? So, and VR can be a very natural evolution of that. So my question to you with that is, how far do you think we are from things like going on a date in VR or going to a concert in VR and those kind of things? I mean, those are different because I think the date is even more immersive, even more personal. But maybe you can give me a timeline of where you think VR is going to be in the next few years.
I give it 5 years.
5 years.
Give it 5 years, and I'll tell you why I feel I never knew the timeline for VR ever since I've been in it. I got interested in it in 2014. And I was always like 10, 20, 30. I have no idea. Last holiday season, so like 4 months ago, when the Quest 2 came out and the numbers hit and all that stuff happened, I knew it was 5 years. And the reason why is when you look at every major game, whether it's Grand Theft Auto, Elder Scrolls, World of Warcraft,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, you name it, Call of Duty. They all have very similar development timelines, 4 to 8 years.
Yep.
About 5 on average. This was the year that VR finally became financially feasible because there's enough hardware adoption because hardware price finally came into an affordable price. For $300, you can surf the internet. You can watch Netflix. You can play games. You can hang out with your friends. You can do anything for $300. I mean, it's cheaper than an iPhone. It's cheaper than it's cheaper than anything right now. I have one friend, I remember I gifted him a Quest 2. He called me up. He's like, dude, this is the best thing ever. I'm like, have you played games on it? He's like, no, but I surf the internet on this. Like, I can use the internet.
Funny.
He didn't have a computer. He didn't have a computer. He's like, I can do the
Oh,
internet.
really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he didn't have a computer. He's like a really like gym type guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't really go, like, he's not an internet guy.
Yeah.
But I gave it to him and he's like, dude, like, I'm on the computer. I have 5 screens up. I'm like, I never even use the Quest for the computer. I have a regular computer.
Yeah.
But for people that don't have a computer, you can now buy a high-speed computer for $300, and it comes with infinite amount of screens if you want it.
Yep.
So now the hardware is getting adopted, and now all the big players have made Metaverse the most buzzword thing in the world. So I think now the capital is going to flow, and it's going to take 5 years to have really good stuff, 10 years, in my opinion, for it to be fully mainstream, like adopted. Why am I giving these timelines? One, it takes about 5 years to make a really good software product for video games. And then the 10-year mark is because no one until this year was saying, I want to go study or work in VR development. It wasn't a thing before. So I have, University of Miami, Florida International University, Miami-Dade College. I have all the deans of these schools and the directors of the, computer science programs calling me, telling me, what do I have to teach the kids? What do I make these curriculums? They're just starting. And this is just me, one guy in Miami with the VR studio. There's probably colleges all over the world thinking, oh my God, VR, buzzword. Think about crypto. It took them 5 years to start crypto academies at Harvard and Yale, right?
100%.
And now there's kids that are graduating with crypto degrees, and they're going, thank God, because we need more solidity.
And it's not just the degrees, it's also the kids, like, when you ask them, like, what's your dream career? What do you want to be one day, right? And
now they want to work in crypto.
Right. 5 years ago, nobody said crypto. Now it's like the hottest thing. Same things with VR. 3 years ago, people treated like this futuristic technology.
Now it's here.
Now it's like, yeah, total normal, because like that's what they do with their friends.
Yeah. So about 5 years to develop talent on a mass scale, and 5 years to make awesome things. So I think all the people that have already been in VR as hobbyists are working on awesome stuff now, which with the right amount of capital, we'll see some badass things come out in the next 3, 4, 5 years. But by 10 years, we'll have a new wave of talent that's many times bigger than all the talent that exists today. And then they'll also be building things for the next 3, 4, 5 years. So in my opinion, 5 to 10 years, this will be as commonplace as an iPhone is today. Dude, I couldn't, that I parked in front of your building. If I didn't have an iPhone, I wouldn't have been able to pay for parking. I have to download an app, and I have to connect my credit card and pay for parking on an app on my iPhone. If I didn't have an iPhone, how the fuck do I pay for parking, man? It's going to be the same thing with VR. You're going to want to see your grandma. You're going to want to see your family. And they're going to come in and be like, oh, grandma, if you want to see your kid, you have to put on this headset. And at first you're like, what is this? She's going to put it on. She's going to be like, oh, wow, I can see you. And
I can hug him.
They're going to hug. Exactly. 5, 10 years. It's all coming now.
So with that, because that's where VR is so different from almost all our prior experiences, is that there is that hardware component that comes with 2 questions. One, do you think, A, we're going to expand that hardware? Because I know you've experimented with a ton of stuff. You've got the catwalk, you've got like the suits and all kinds of stuff to like check out, like, because it enhances the experience, like to make it fully immersive beyond just visuals. Or 2, are we actually going to downsize it where, like, the goggles aren't going to be these massive things on our heads, but, become almost, I don't know, brain computer interface. I mean, there's so many ways to take it, but it still makes it different that there's more setup time, so to say, and it's more, I guess, physically restraining.
So is the question, what do I think is going to happen with the hardware?
Yeah, well, the question is twofold. Yeah, like, A, do you think we're going to go beyond just visuals? Like, how are we going to get the other senses involved?
Oh, we're there already.
Okay.
I mean, I was in VR World in Tokyo 2017. They shut down because of COVID, but I mean, you had everything. You had smell, you had electricity.
Smell.
Dude, smell. You had like climate control. Wow. You had like these chairs that you'd sit in or walk in and it would like tilt you around. I mean, like, these are $10,000-$20,000 setups, but
sure,
it's already there. And with Moore's law, technology always gets better and cheaper, always. So hardware is just going to continue improving.
So what do you think? We're going to have like little capsules that we get in that can have like the smell and the
I think we're going to have two. My two end goals is we're going to have AR, VR, what I call XR glasses.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be able to get rid of your iPhone. You're going to have glasses that you're going to be walking through your normal life, and everything's going to be augmented. You're going to be looking at a menu. It's going to know your dietary restrictions.
Right. I'm vegetarian.
Yeah. Like it's going to be like, oh, these are all red because they have gluten. Oh, these are red because they're not vegan. Whatever it is. Oh, this has this many calories. You know, you walk into McDonald's. I don't know about you, but I like McDonald's. Every now and then, you walk into McDonald's or Subway or any fast food restaurant, it kind of became a new law where they have to tell you how many calories is in everything. It's like a thing now. It's been around for a while. You're going to look at menus. It's going to tell you all the ingredients. I mean, this is going to be the AR part with the glasses. You're going to be driving down the street in your car, and you're going to see random AR things like, oh, make a right here, make a left there. Like, this is step one. You're also then going to be able to click a button and be in VR. And we already have finger tracking on the Oculus Quest 2. You don't even need anything. It sees your hands. You can type. You can grab things with your hands. All finger tracking. So my first technological milestone is AR, VR, or XR glasses, which let you freely transport from the physical reality that's augmented to the virtual world with the click of a button. The difference is whether it blacks out your screen and puts you in a video game or it's just enhancing things. And I think that AR is going to become a necessity the same way that you can't live without a smartphone today.
I agree 100%.
Like you're going to see things like all in the world in AR that if you don't have one, you're going to feel like you're not even part of society. That's what I feel.
It's a whole layer, right?
Now, for entertainment purposes, right? So I'll give you an example. The iPhone. You have video games on the iPhone, but it's not the go-to game. Like, do I play Call of Duty Mobile? When I'm in a bus stop, I don't really set up. I don't set up bus stops. I'm trying to think. When I'm in the airport before getting on a plane, when I'm bored, when my Tesla's driving itself, I'll play Call of Duty Mobile. It's not what I want to play. It's not the best. Even Fortnite on the iPhone, it's not the best. I want the controller. I want the whole thing. So the same way that iPhone is a necessity for everyday life, XR glasses are going to be a necessity for everyday life. To go to meetings, to enter places, to see things, to get directions, whatever. You're also going to have your PlayStation 5 or your gaming PC or whatever it is. And that, in my opinion, is going to be something like a pod. It's going to be like a home pod where, you can sit in it, stand in it, whatever. There's going to be different versions of it. And if you want to go into Call of Duty or Halo or, Veil VR, you'll be fully immersed in that gaming situation. So those are the two pieces of hardware that I think we'll see within the next decade.
And why do you think those XR classes have failed so far? Just because they don't have enough application where it's worth the hassle? Like, I'm thinking of two things. I'm thinking of Google Glass way back when my brother had some. They were expensive, clumsy. And then two, spectacles, Snap's AR glasses.
Something you forgot for a very good reason. Facebook's Ray-Ban glasses.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody even uses those. Now, it's a chicken and egg situation. No one, if you don't, these type of things, if there's no killer app, why would you ever get it? There's no need for it.
Yeah.
Right? The same way that grandparents only get stuff when they need to do it. So we've been in a chicken and egg situation for a long time in gaming and AR and VR and all these things because everyone's making this hardware, but no one is like, let me get VR headset to play something. There's no game they can think of. They're like, let me get VR to try VR. Let me get AR to try AR. It's just tech demos. So what happens? People try it. They're like, this is cool, but I don't need it for everyday life. We're still waiting for those killer applications, which have not come out yet. I have not seen a killer application that I'm like, damn, I need this. And that comes back to one of the first points that we first talked about. Everything you design for AR and VR can't just be like, let's take the regular stuff and make it AR. Let's take the regular stuff and make it VR. It has to be something that you can only do in AR, that you can only do in VR, that makes the consumer say, I want to get it because I can only do it there. Not, I want to get it so I can try XYZ in AR or VR. Because if you just try it, they're going to go back to the original. No, we're not there yet. But now with the capital and the buzzword and all this stuff, 5-year mark. That starts now. And
I think that segues us really well into what I'll give you next. But so far, you're right. Almost everything is kind of like novelty item where you try an app out. You're like, oh, this is let's say Beat Saber. Everybody loves Beat Saber, but am I playing Beat Saber for hours? Probably not, right? So now let me segue into that, because we haven't talked that much in detail about AEXLAB itself and Veil. So since you are building it, and like you have all these opinions and views of like where VR is going, you in the shoes of a founder that is building it. So what are you building? How are you building it differently? And since you're applying all your lessons yourself, tell us a little bit about
that. Hi, my name is Jonathan.
Yeah, since we didn't cover that one.
I'm the CEO,
Jonathan Ovadia.
I'm the CEO of AEXLAB. We are a virtual reality game development studio. We've been in VR since 2014, and we've been working on our signature product called Veil VR since 2017. It's a first-person competitive shooter and social experience. So what does that mean, right? So what we're really doing here is I'm trying to take things from two of my favorite genres and just everything I love from gaming and putting it into one product. And it only works because it's VR. So me as a gamer, I've always played two primary things. I've played first-person shooters and MMORPGs. MMORPGs are awesome because they're social. You build a guild, you make friends, you get to adventure with other people. Like, it's more social than anything. And World of Warcraft, which I still play today, sadly, I have my guild. I go and it's so dumbed down that like I just have friends there. So I go with my friends. We'll just mindlessly kill the horde. I'm on the lines. I just talk shit on it. I don't even care about the game, but I'm there for my guild, for my friends, to talk shit. I'm just there socializing. That's really what I'm doing. It's my way to relax. Call of Duty and Halo, which I'm obsessed with today, I go in there for 1 or 2 hour, 3 hour sessions to just whoop ass, right, with my friends. But when you're in first-person shooter, your brain is if you're like me, your brain is shooting off at like 1,000 cylinders. Like, you're just going crazy. Like, oh, there's someone behind there. There's a grenade. Throw a grenade. Oh, I died. Fuck, I just got a kill streak. Like, nonstop action. You get tired eventually. You get drained, right? It's like almost. I think there's been studies that say like first-person shooters are almost as addictive as cocaine. When you're doing good, when you start getting whooped because you're tired, then you just, after 2-3 hours, I get tired. I start making mistakes. I'm like, oh, I'm done. And when I'm done, I just want to socialize.
Yeah.
So what do? I jump into World of Warcraft and I just chill. I don't even play the game, but I chill there. Why? I have my cute little flying mount. I can fly around. I can get outfits. I can go to the auction house. I just chill, right? So what I'm doing is I'm taking these two aspects and I'm putting them into one. So in Veil VR, you can go compete with your friends. Gun games, search and destroy, team deathmatch, all the traditional things. We're also making some unique game modes that I'll share with you when they're ready that are only possible in VR, because I really want to push like what game modes are only possible in VR. And we're working on some stuff. It's all concepts right now. Really, really fun, but still in the testing stages. But other than that, I really wanted to focus on the social side. So I remember BlackBerry Messenger. I remember WhatsApp in its early days. I remember Kik. I remember AOL chat rooms. Like, that was all just me socializing. I remember chat roulette, like random things like that, right? So
dangerous place.
Dangerous place. But all of these things are part of the internet. They're part of gaming. And what are they at its core? It's people socializing with other people. And I'm taking the social aspect by creating these virtual homes, which is really just reimagining a gamer's lobby. So traditional gamer's lobby for a first-person shooter is voice chat only. You're in a party system, you're talking, and then whenever you're ready to start, you click play and you start the game. For us, you start the game the second you click launch. The second you launch the game, you're in your home. You can invite friends to your home, and within this home, this is the social aspect. I'm letting people design the home any way they want. I'm letting them, expand their home to be larger, to be smaller. If they want to add a hockey rink, if they want to add mini golf, if they want to add chess, checkers, they want to watch YouTube with their friends, anything that they want to do in the social aspect, I'm letting them do it. And the next phase that's going to come is going to be user-generated content for the social setting. So if you want to build items for your home, if you want to 3D model them, design them, you can do that. You can design your own home. And if you really think it's cool, put it on the marketplace for free or charge for it. And this is the way that we're going to start stimulating an in-game economy that the game's not dependent on. The users themselves are just using this marketplace, building, buying, selling, making money if they feel like it. You don't need it to play the game. And that's one thing where I think Web3 gaming, they're always like tying everything to like every interaction's a token, every interaction's an NFT. Like you need these things. And if you think about gaming in general, the most successful games are free to play. They have no barrier to entry. In a world where there's so many different places that can fight for users' attention, if it's something's $5 or free, it changes everything. It's kind of like the free sample, right? Like you want to give someone a free sample when you know the product's good. So I think that the best games are always going to be free to play because they get everybody in, and then they can find other ways to monetize. You don't put a barrier up. You need an NFT. You need $30. You need a crypto token. You need to get a MetaMask. You need to buy Ethereum with your mom's credit card, move it over to MetaMask, then put it onto layer 2, and then buy a token and an NFT, and then import it. And maybe you lost your stuff. Maybe you didn't if you buy the stuff, and now you can play the game. Like, you're never going to get mass adoption this way. So in our world, it's first-person shooter, social experience. Everything's free to play. And if the user-generated content market wants to charge or not charge or monetize their work, we're just creating a marketplace and a vehicle for this to happen. We're not really forcing anyone to do or buy anything if they don't want. And nothing is pay to win at all. It's all cosmetic and entertainment only. So if a kid wants to design a bowling alley, they can. No kid can go and buy, an OP weapon or armor or things like that. A lot of games, especially on mobile, are like very pay to win. And in my opinion, that kind of just destroys the game at its core.
You already stole the words out of my notes because I wrote down, free to play generally comes with pay to win, right? But I guess
only on mobile, really.
Only on mobile?
Mobile is really designed for that. They gamify everything. They make it pennies, super microtransactions. Just like a perfectly designed game, which was evil, and I lost thousands of dollars to it. Was Facebook's game, actually. It was Farmville.
Oh, gee.
You ever play Farmville on Facebook?
Way back when, though. Yeah,
me too. Dude, they designed it in a way that every time I got on, I had to spend $10 to fast forward the time to get stuff. And that wasn't even pay to win, really. That was straight cosmetics, but they you had to buy these things.
They optimize it for you to spend more money. So but that's interesting because there's been a lot of pushback. Which company was there? Was a game company? It might have been Ubisoft that launched a helmet or something for $600 in NFT. And then all of a sudden, was it that one?
Ubisoft recently was one of the biggest game publishers to do NFTs, and everybody hated it.
Right, everybody pushed back. So this sounds like the way you guys are going about it is that you are not you're enabling users to create NFTs, but let me be clear. In my game, no one's even gonna have to know it's an NFT. NFT is a buzzword. To me, what it really is it's just a form of ownership. Usually, when you buy in-game items, terms of service says that you're licensing the right to use this in-game item. And at any moment, the game can take it away from you. They can ban you. They can do whatever. NFT just says, okay, the studio isn't licensing you the right to use this item. You really own this on a chain. And if the game goes down, you still own it. If we ban you, you still own it. You own it no matter what. You can move it, you can transfer, you can do it. NFT is a form of ownership, nothing more, nothing less. It helps to account for royalties and accounting, nothing more, nothing less. And it also helps with anti-piracy. It's not something that people people use NFTs in the wrong way. And that's one of the main reasons why gamers are pissed. They think NFTs are just, studios trying to make money off of people. They're not looking at the actual technological improvements and advancements that it adds to their user experience. If Ubisoft said, instead of Ubisoft being oh, we're gonna sell NFTs and they're eco-friendly, everyone was even more pissed about it just because they used it as their main marketing push. They're we're doing eco-friendly, carbon neutral NFTs. Gamers don't care about that. If Ubisoft said, hey, we're going to let the gamer actually own their digital item for the first time, we're not going to be able to ban you or take this away from you. You're really owning this. We're giving the power to the gamer. You own this now. That's what we're doing. Without even using the word NFT, they probably would have exploded. But instead, they focused on NFT, buzzword, eco, carbon friendly stuff, $1,000 items. Gamers don't like that shit. They don't. Because it doesn't add anything to the experience they're having.
Nothing.
And for the final kind of philosophical pushback, earlier today you said, still on this podcast, that you believe that in VR there shouldn't be scarcity. It should be a world where everything exists and is available. And I guess there's two different visions. So yes, that's actually the popular vision, I would say, of VR, where you can be anybody you want, you can be anything. It's
scarcity is a crypto thing. Every crypto person loves the idea of scarcity because that's where the value comes from. But they're also thinking about NFTs and crypto coins in the wrong way.
But wouldn't you say that in our world, and of course the world can change, especially if it's in VR, people seek hierarchies and people almost they need to be able. What it boils down to is actually a gaming thing. They need to be able to level up. If you have everything from day one, there's no leveling up. There's no climbing up the hierarchy.
Okay. But this is the one point of a video game in the real world. In the real world, there can only be a 1%. In MMORPGs, everyone can hit end game and everyone can be together all the way from the start to the end. Everyone is on the same level as long as they put the same amount of work into it. In the real world, it's not even about working hard these days, man. I know people that work 3 minimum wage jobs. They're working hard. They're getting $10 an hour. And because of the financial system, they still are underwater every single month. Because of inflation, the financial system, and just the real world, they're still underwater. So the world isn't fair. The video game world is open and fair to everyone. You put in, I mean, you can see the statistics.
Couldn't I put in 8 hours into the game and still not beat the levels because maybe I'm not skilled enough?
I have not seen that happen. I have not seen that. Like statistically, like I go and study like some of the top VR esport players, some of the regular Call of Duty players. Even the best players, you can see direct correlations of how many hours they spend in the game and their kill death ratio. Maybe someone is like at a 5.0 KD, which is insane, but you'll see them go to 5.01, 5.02, 5.03. Like even if it's minor, like no matter what you get, it's like anything in life. If you practice something, you get better. Do you need to put in more time than other people? Sometimes, yeah, but if you put in enough time, you'll get better at these games.
And you don't think that applies to the real world?
The real world's that's like a whole other podcast. I mean, the real
that's
world,
for another 3-hour session.
Yeah, like you want to talk about the wealth gap, you want to talk about the financial system, you want to talk about, cost of tuition outpacing inflation and jobs like by 1,000x. Like, you want to talk about back in the day, you'd graduate college, you had a job. Now, if you graduate college, you like are lucky to have an interview. I mean, it's just.
Do you see more and more, one of the biggest shifts, I guess, is that we're moving more towards a creator economy. More people are making full-time livings, doing things that were unimaginable, from social media managers to full-time esports players.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I think one of the things that I do think is good is technology is helping get rid of meaningless, what's the word?
Like bureaucracy?
No,
jobs.
I don't think humans should have to clean things up. I think that could be robots.
Sure.
Most minimum wage jobs, human capital should be so much more valuable than these what's the word? Meaningless, not meaningless.
Meaningful.
Menial. Yeah. Humans should not have to do menial things.
Yeah.
Technology solves all these things. And now what you're seeing is all these people, human capital, they're taking their time from, cleaning and doing random things to influencing and creating and designing. And I think that's way cooler. And it's a much better use of our time.
And of our capabilities. My first job was carrying boxes in a warehouse.
Yeah, me too.
Right?
Actually, I worked in a warehouse.
Yeah, and the thing is, those same hours, deployed into, what's the human strength? Generally, I would say decision making, right? And complex thinking.
I think ideas and thinking is something that we're going to start seeing a lot more of because, if you just do the regular stuff these days, you can't survive. So people are starting to get creative with, what they do with their time. And I think that's one good thing about what's happening. And I'm excited to see what happens with the creator economy. I think Web3 is going to be perfect for the creator economy in ways that allow people to monetize their IP in a transparent way without middlemen.
Yeah.
That's kind of if you talk about the studios, record labels and, agencies and movies and all these businesses are so fucked up.
Yeah.
But now with Web3, all these creators can go straight to the consumer. Music NFTs blow my mind. User experience kind of sucks, but
what blows your mind about it?
What blows my mind is that, I don't know, you can have a rapper drop 1 million music NFTs and get all the money immediately from his fans without needing a label or a publisher or anything. I mean, they get all the money immediately. They actually own their music. They own their masters. That's pretty cool stuff. I don't know if you know, but my other 2 co-founders were musicians. And before we were a VR studio, we were a music label.
Oh, okay.
So I know quite a lot about the whole music industry. And music NFTs are just great. Most artists, they just start getting good. And then a label comes through with yo, you're broke. Here's a car and $100,000 signing bonus. And we own everything you ever do. And then they start making tens of millions of dollars. That doesn't go to the artist. Most artists, by the way, the only money they make when they go on tour, they get paid a fee per show and they get the merch.
Yeah.
Everything else is the studio and the manager.
Wow.
That's it. And most musicians don't make money unless they go on tour to sell merch and get paid like 20, 30K a show.
So they're always having to go back on tour.
Tour is where they make most of their money. They don't make money. Dude, they have the #1 hit song. They don't make any money. All those royalties don't go to them.
Kanye went on rants about that, you know, apparently they're making like, you know, not really sense.
Bet. Yeah, Kanye is like super crazy about this, like in a good way. Like he says it, he's real about it. I think he's been sued by his label like a million times because he just talks about it. The thing is, these are real things that no one talks about. And that's why music NFTs are awesome. If you have a following with social media, you don't need a label to publish you. You just drop your music NFT and whoever wants to support you can support you.
So the only pushback I have to that is a while ago, a couple months ago, I sat in the studio with a well-known DJ. I'm not going to say his name. And he actually was bearish on music NFTs, of course, even though it could make him more money, because he said there's so much work involved on the side of what the label brings to the table. You know, ultimately, most artists, they're not businessmen, nor do a lot of them want to be involved in, let's say, the sales side of things, right, or the structuring side of things. They want to focus on their art, what they do best, right? So in order to be an indie artist, you kind of have become, you're almost spending more time managing yourself than making music, right? So, you know, do you think we'll have some kind of like a hybrid where, like, yes, it's still Web3 and it's still getting a better deal, but, you know, are these institutions like, you know, labels really going to go away?
So I can talk about music labels and game publishers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to talk about game publishers.
Yeah, since that's your forte.
Yeah, it really is. So game publishers, you couldn't get on the shelf. You couldn't get to a customer or a consumer without a publisher.
Yep.
You wanted to be in Best Buy, GameStop, you wanted to be on the Sony store, you needed one of these people. But all that's been completely democratized over the last decade. You can make a game and put it on Steam or on any website and go straight to consumer. So they no longer offer distribution. They offer marketing and distribution. What do they do for marketing? Dude, the marketing back in the day was like crazy commercials all over TV. Now marketing is YouTubers.
Which you
and
have
TikTokers,
access to.
which I have access to, and they want me just as much as I want them because we need each other. They need cool stuff to stream, and I need cool people to stream my stuff. So if a publisher can't offer you, and also a publisher offers you capital. They offer you capital, distribution, and marketing. All the business and managerial stuff, dude, they do it, but guess what? You still need a business guy on your side reviewing it anyways. So if you're an indie artist, you're going to need a business manager.
Yeah.
Right? And you're going to have a business manager that does the business with the studio. So it's the same. Like, you're still going to need a business manager whether you have a studio or you don't. You're still going to need a business person whether you have a publisher or not. You're always going to need it. But the capital, you can now do crowdfunding.
Yep.
The distribution, nothing's in stores anymore. There's no retail. It's all online, and the internet's democratized. And for marketing, the YouTubers and TikTokers are 10 times or 1,000 times more effective than traditional marketing on, you know, Forbes or I don't know, commercials on television, things like that. So all the real big use cases for needing a game publisher, everything's been democratized. I mean, I did equity crowdfunding. I self-published myself. And
there's
I
a
have
book by
TikTokers.
Jonathan?
Self-published our game.
Oh, the games.
We're publishers and developers. So I think the same thing is going to apply to a lot of other similar industries such as music and art and entertainment.
And it pops up on the same launchers, you know, like a Steam, for example, whether you're published by the biggest game studios or you're indie.
Yeah. You know what matters? The content and the community behind it. I mean, even art, right? You needed to be a famous artist to get in the right galleries. Now you have OpenSea, right?
Yeah.
And it's all your following. And it's just, if you have cool stuff and you've been around and you're a cool person, there's no publisher that can build that. It's just the artist, or, you know, that's my opinion at least.
Awesome. No, and I think that's actually a great note to end on. I know, we got to have you back, especially once the game is launched. I want to get, you know, the full-on feature on everything you've built from now till then. But to leave things off, 2 questions. One, if you had to give one piece of advice for somebody that wants to go full-time in, you know, the metaverse world, the game development world, and so forth, because I think there's more and more kids now that say, hey, this is a feasible career, feasible future. What advice would you give to them?
I'm going to give generic advice that actually was given to me and it worked. If you're passionate about something, just go for it. YouTube and Google are your best friends. That's really it. I mean, I was able to go on LinkedIn and just cold email some of the most successful video game executives. And being young is actually a bonus because older people that are happy actually like helping people. And I just reached out, and don't get me wrong, maybe 1,000 people, one would reply. But if you're persistent and you're passionate and it doesn't feel like work, things end up happening for you.
Amazing. And where can people find out more about you? Maybe they request access to Veil on Steam?
Yeah, so you can check out Veil VR on Steam, or you can join discord.gg/VeilVR. That's it.
That's it? No direct following? Sliding in on your Instagram?
You can go on discord.gg/VeilVR.
There we go.
And you'll
That's
find
what
Tropical
we'll do.
somewhere if you look heavy enough.
We'll add the links down in the description as well. Well, Jonathan, thanks so much for being on. I'm really excited for what you're going to build and us building out Miami here. Really glad we became friends the last 2 months. And
thank you, Mr. Hartmann.
let's do it. Cheers.
Awesome.